Hello guys, this is RJ Game News USA here today, and we're going to be talking about NFL Week 17 recap. Now, I do want to make mention that guys, don't expect a lot of sports content on this channel going forward. I had a community post where we're going to be focusing more on game live streams, reviews, and going over news stories and some movie reviews, but don't expect a lot of sports content moving forward. Just want to make that clear. But we are going to finish out the season because we already came this far, right? So let's go ahead and do this recap. And if you guys really do like these sports, videos, let me know in the comments below. Maybe we can find some way to keep them around. But anyway, we're going to kick it off with Christmas Day, a Wednesday. The Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 29-10. The Chiefs are really rounding into form, and they have picked up the 1 seed, and now they can rest. A lot of people make the joke they're the worst 15-1 team in NFL history. They actually are by point differential. But they are the back-to-back defending champions, and the road to the Super Bowl goes through Arrowhead. Steelers are reeling a little bit. They've taken some losses. They've lost control of the division now. It's in the hands of the Ravens, who have blown out the Houston Texans also on Christmas Day, 31-2. Speaking of a team that has fallen apart, also at home, the Texans look terrible against the Ravens. They locked up the 4 seed. They will host a playoff game. They did win their division, but I have no confidence in them moving forward. They're not quite the team that I expected them to be when the year started, and CJ Stroud has definitely taken a step back. And next up, we have a truly awful game on Thursday night, December 26th. The Seattle Seahawks defeated the Bears 6-3. I feel really bad for Bears fans who thought they were getting the second coming, but not really so far. And unfortunately for the Seahawks, they've been knocked out of the playoffs. So they won, they did their part, but as you'll see later on, the Rams took care of their business. We had a slate of Saturday games on NFL Network, which is disappointing because that's a stupid channel to have these games on. Millions of more people could be watching on regular-ass TV, but instead they stuck all 3 games on NFL Network. The early game, the Chargers blew out the Patriots 40-7. My Patriots look like they're going to get the number 1 pick. If I were them, I would trade it for a bounty. You know what I mean? Trade it for a bunch of picks. This team needs rebuilt completely, but they do have a quarterback that they kind of like, so we might stick with that. At least that much. The Chargers are looking really good. They're looking red hot. They're going to be a red hot wild card team in the playoffs. Harbaugh's really turned stuff around. Justin Herbert looks like he's going to get his first playoff win. It's probably against those Texans I mentioned. Then we had a big game, huge AFC playoff implications. The Cincinnati Bengals were able to defeat the Denver Broncos 30-24 in overtime. This keeps the Bengals alive in the playoffs. Joe Burrow has 42 touchdowns and 8 interceptions and the most passing yards in the league. There's even talks he could maybe even win MVP if he can somehow get the Bengals to the playoffs. I wouldn't know about going that far. But he's had the best season on the worst team that's ever had a quarterback with this great in numbers. It's too bad the Bengals lost some of the games they lost early in the year because they would absolutely be a terrifying playoff team right now. However, destiny is still in Denver's hands despite the 30-24 loss because if they could beat the Chiefs' backups in Week 18, they are in the playoffs. Cincinnati needs to win next week. They need a Denver loss, and they need a Miami loss. And like I mentioned earlier, the LA Rams defeated the Arizona Cardinals 13-9, wrapping up the NFC West, possibly the 3rd seed. And they're going back to the playoffs. They won a Super Bowl a few years ago before Kansas City won back-to-back. They have some playoff experience. They could be dangerous in the NFC. Cardinals had a better year than they had last year. They're trying to build on something good. And then next up, we're on to the Sunday games in the early window. The Buffalo Bills completely blasted the New York Jets 40-14, continuing the nightmare of Aaron Rodgers, what looks like should be his final season. Josh Allen, what looks like to many people should be MVP, but we'll have to see. My personal vote is I think this is one of the closest MVP races ever. And my personal vote right now, if you put me under the gun, you know, we have 5 good candidates. We got Burrow, we got Goff, we got Saquon, we got Lamar, we got Josh Allen. It's as tight as an MVP race, as good as an MVP race as you'll see. But gun to my head, believe it or not, I would give Lamar a start MVP. His passer rating is 120. Look at all the touchdowns he's made. He's protected the ball, not throwing a lot of interceptions. He's truly the most valuable player on that team. I know Derrick Henry's good. I'd give it to Lamar. It's not easily giving it to Lamar, but that's who I'd give it to. Unless Saquon Barkley breaks Eric Dickerson's rushing record, then I'll change my mind and I give it to Saquon. Because if he can't get the MVP when he breaks the rushing record, Eric Dickerson's rushing record, no running back will ever win the MVP again. They might as well rename the award the Quarterback Award. Because honestly, it used to be an award that got handed out to mostly quarterbacks and running backs. Now it's almost been exclusively quarterbacks since Adrian Peterson last won it in 2012. Derrick Henry also has had a 2,000-yard season before where he did not win MVP. Aaron Rodgers did, but that was a 48-touchdown, 4-interception year. I can't blame that. So I think right now it's Lamar. It could be Saquon. If I'm the Eagles, I wouldn't even play Saquon, though. Wouldn't care about the rushing record or the MVP. You don't want to risk him getting hurt. So, interesting decision for Sirianni to make there. Then we had the Raiders beat the Saints 25-10. I'm not going to go very long in the tooth on this. These two teams are awful. But it was a Sunday where awful teams won because the Giants beat the Colts 45-33. The Colts should be embarrassed. They're eliminated from the playoffs because of this loss. They had no chance of getting in. They allowed the Giants to kick their ass, which is absolutely embarrassing because we all know the Giants are the worst team in the NFL. And to put up 45 points against a team that's fighting to make the playoffs is just straight ass embarrassing. I don't even know what to say about that. That's just, I would be embarrassed. Speaking about embarrassment, the Philadelphia Eagles mollywopped the Dallas Cowboys 41-7. I mean, with their backup quarterback. We just talked about Saquon Barkley. He had 167 yards. He only needs 101 more yards to break Eric Dickerson's record. He may or may not play next week. Dallas is a joke. Mike McCarthy needs fired. I don't care what they did versus Tampa. It's no good, man. Get rid of him. Speaking of Tampa, they absolutely crushed the Carolina Panthers 48-14. Tampa looking as dangerous as any team in the NFC. They're looking like they're going to get a home playoff game, win the NFC South after the things that occurred later on this day. And, Carolina's just trying to rebuild a little bit. They're trying to get Bryce Young more reps. In a completely meaningless game except for the NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the Titans 20-13. And the Miami Dolphins, without Tua, was able to beat the Cleveland Browns 20-3 to keep their playoff hopes alive. In order for Miami to make the playoffs, they need to win next week versus the Jets, and the Broncos need to lose to the backup Chiefs. So, and if they do squeeze in, they'll be rewarded by playing Buffalo again in the playoffs in the cold and get their ass whooped. And I don't think any NFL fan wants to see Miami just make it into the 7th seed again just to get their ass whooped in Buffalo in the playoffs. I think many people would rather see Broncos or Bengals if it's up to me or anybody else. Browns, they need to get rid of Deshaun Watson. They restructured his contract. Unfortunately, they're stuck with him another year. But honestly, they can go ahead and just draft a guy right now. Just fuck it. Then we had, and because we're in the late window now, then we had the Minnesota Vikings defeating the Green Bay Packers 27-25. Packers put up good fight at the end. They were down 27-10. They came back, got it within 2, but the Vikings were able to run out the clock and post a ridiculous 14-2 record, which was absolutely not expected for the Vikings to do whatsoever. Sam Darnold's proven he is a quarterback in this league that deserves a starting job for sure on a contending team, it looks like. And next week, the Vikings are going to play the Lions on the last regular season game to decide who's the 1 seed and who's the 5 seed. Winner gets the 1, loser gets the 5. So you could have a 14-win 5 seed team going to a 10-win 4 seed team in the playoffs. That's just how it works. Some people have called for the playoffs to change, where it's just based off conference record. But I think how it's currently set up is fine with me. Division winners get the home games, and the wildcard teams have to come on the road. It makes this game this Sunday night coming up super important to get that 1 seed. I don't think you want to be the Vikings or the Lions having to play on grass, probably in Tampa. I don't think you necessarily want to do that or have to go to LA. So, that's interesting. And then Sunday Night Football was a very good game. Washington won 30-24. This now puts Tampa in the driver's seat in the NFC South. The Falcons would need Tampa to lose next week, and the Falcons will need to win next week versus the Panthers to win the NFC South. And I don't think that's going to happen. Washington has clinched a playoff spot, and in fact, they would be the 6th seed if they go ahead and win next week against the Cowboys, which I believe they will, leaving the Packers to be the 7. And then we had Monday Night Football, where the Detroit Lions defeated the San Francisco 49ers 40-34 in a game that featured almost no defense. And what shouldn't have surprised me, Dan Campbell played his starters the entire game when he absolutely didn't have to, because the game was meaningless versus getting the 1 seed when they play the Vikings next week. The only way this game would have came into play is if the Lions did lose, and then next week they ended up tying Minnesota. The Minnesota would get the 1 seed. So, guys, that's it. That's the NFL recap this week. I appreciate you all for watching. Like I said in the comments below, if you do want more sports content, if you actually care about me covering sports, let me know. I'll try to think about incorporating it in shows in the future. We will do NFL Week 18 recap to end the regular season. And then I will let the entirety of the playoffs play out, including the Super Bowl, before I recap the playoffs. But other than that, I don't have any sports content planned. But if it is something you want, let me know. And please remember to subscribe. So until next time, this is RJ Game News USA signing out. Have a good one. Peace.